Chapter 10. God hunts us down for another chance. Katie walked into our church the last Sunday of May 2010, dazed, confused, and scared. On the Thursday night prior, she had gotten into an argument with her mom because she didn't want to take an 8-week summer camp job her mom had lined up for her. The argument ended with her mom informing her that she had 15 minutes to pack her things and get out, or she would call the cops and have her 18-year-old daughter thrown out. An hour later, Mom dropped her off at a homeless shelter downtown, driving away with the parting words, "Have a nice life." Katie found herself checking into a shelter for homeless women, many of whom are hardcore meth or heroin addicts, prostitutes, or suffering severe mental disorders. She had nothing but a small school backpack and 2 plastic grocery bags full of clothes. That was her welcome into the adult world. Katie is the biological product of a prostitute in San Francisco. She and her brother were adopted as young children by a couple where the father was the main caregiver and the mother the main breadwinner. In their teen years, the father unexpectedly died, leaving Mom to care for Katie, her brother, and 2 other young children they had also adopted. The mom was estranged from her own family and extended relatives. She had been unable to build strong relationships with the father's side either. So Mom up and moved the family out of state to a remote area north of Spokane, Washington. Mom did this without consulting or conferring with the children, nor did Mom notify the extended relatives of the move. When they arrived, they had no family, no friends, or connections in this state. Mom felt she could financially provide in a cheaper area, and it seemed she wanted to get away from California. Katie and her brother begrudgingly enrolled in the high school where Katie made just a few friends in her 2 months there. The grief, conflicts, anger, and rebellion Katie had against the situation caused so much hostility in the home that Mom shipped her off to a reform school in Utah. Katie stayed there for the next 2 years. Katie worked through many of her personal issues during that time with the counseling, support, and professional help. A few weeks before her 18th birthday, Mom had Katie sent back home against the school's recommendations and Katie's own desires. At home, the conflicts with Mom remained unresolved. So now, a few days after her 18th birthday, Mom gave Katie 15 minutes to pack and get out. She drove her to downtown and dumped her off. Katie wandered the streets for a few days, lost and alone in a place where she had no family, friends, or support or structure of any kind. At that time, we had a volunteer sound man that was a homeless person himself. He turned out to be a pathological liar and a thief, but he was, hands down, our best inviter. On a Sunday morning, sitting at the local Catholic Charities homeless shelter, he approached her and took one look at her and said, "You don't belong here." He invited her to our church since many of the local homeless attended our services. Not knowing where else to turn, frightened and alone, Katie came to a church service of her own volition for the first time in her life. Prior to this moment, she had never set foot in a church except for a wedding or a funeral. When she walked in the doors, she nearly broke down in tears. Up on the stage, rehearsing for the worship that day, were my teen daughters, the only 2 high school kids in our whole church. They just happened to be 2 of the few friends Katie had made more than 2 years earlier in a high school located 12 miles away. What are the odds that she would walk into a downtown urban church with only 2 high school kids in the congregation in a state she'd barely lived in which she had no extended family, and then, for her very first church service, find a known friend? That was God watching out for her. They all 3 fell on each other, laughing and crying, Katie with relief. She stayed through the service, helped in the kitchen with our feeding program, and then we took her home with us for the next few weeks. Not long after that, we were able to help get Katie into her own apartment. Through church support, we were able to get her furniture as well. She enrolled in one of the local community colleges and began to get stable in her life. She gave her life to Christ a few months later, was baptized in our church, and grew to become our nursery and preschool director. Her journey, even with Christ, wasn't the smooth, easy, straight path. There was a lot to overcome. I've watched Katie grow and develop as a woman and a leader. Her starting point was so much lower than most people that I give her extra credit for how far she has come. She literally stood at a crossroads where her destiny could have been either a drug-addicted stripper or prostitute, or she could have overcome against all odds and established herself as a productive, happy, and fruitful person. God was intervening in her story, saving her from that first alternative. It happened just because we happened to be in the right place at the right time. In the summer of 2012, Katie completed her Associate of Arts degree and headed off to Seattle Pacific University that fall. SPU is a Christian university where she planned on getting a degree in education or early childhood development. She planned on spending her life rescuing kids just like her. Katie's story would keep unfolding in the years after. She had some dark paths ahead due to unresolved issues, and it wouldn't turn out as any of us had planned. I still, to this day, know God has His hand on that girl in a special way, and she doesn't even realize it.